Hi, I'm here with Julie Lewin today. She's a medical intuitive, and I've actually just had a conversation with her. And she's going to show us today a little bit about the processes that she does. She's written a book, and I'm sure these processes are in the book. And I just wanted to find out a little bit more about how deeply she works, and so to do some things with her. And we're going to be talking about self-love and self-care, because we've got some practitioners in our membership area, and it's an area that many of us, we forget about ourselves all the time, and it's so vital if we're healing other people that we really need to start looking after ourselves. And I will probably drum this in to everyone that I meet, because I've gone through this myself and I ended up with adrenal exhaustion. And it's so vital that we start looking after ourselves, because when we're depleted, we don't look after anybody else, because there's nothing left to give. So Julie, I would love to learn some of your techniques, please.
Awesome. Okay, so one of the ones that I really like to share with practitioners is the concept of us being a vessel, and we need to refill our vessel every week. So just as a little village or a town has a water tank, and every week the council fills that water tank back up to full as the townspeople use the water every week for showering, for cooking, for their toilet, for watering the garden. The water, it just goes down like that, and then they refill it all the way back up to the top. So it's this constant up and down. So I see my body as a water tank. And so as I give out, and as practitioners do, we give out, as mums do, they give out. We need to refill all the way back to the top. And with a lot of people that I work with, they actually are not looking after that side of their life. They just feel like they're like a mouse in a wheel, and they just have to keep going and going and going, and they don't take the time to refill. So one of the ways that I teach people to refill is to have something that they do just for themselves. Now that can take 5 minutes, it can be 10 minutes, but do something every day that allows them to refill. So for me, I take photos of small flowers, and as I'm walking around, I'm outside day to day, I've trained my mind to see the smaller things. And I go all the way down, and I put my camera about this far from the photo, from the flower, and then I take a photo. I do that for me, and it brings me joy. But then I share those photos, and other people write to me and they say, Julie, I love your photos. I don't do it for those people, I do it for me. It refills me. Scientists have just made this big discovery that we actually can share the nature's energy. They've recorded it somehow. So what I'm intuitively doing is I'm sharing my energy with nature. I'm drawing on the energy of the plants. So that refills me personally. But everyone needs to find their own little something that they can do. Now, a lot of people meditate. You don't have to meditate for an hour. You can meditate for 5 minutes. You meditate for 10 minutes and just drop into that space. You can daydream. Like, people have forgotten the art of daydreaming. Daydreaming is where you're not working, you're not thinking about your children, you're not thinking about anyone. You are dreaming about being somewhere in a beautiful place. You're thinking about a holiday, you're thinking about a future that you're wanting to attract in. It's a really good thing to daydream. 20 minutes of daydreaming a day is brilliant to actually refill you, because your body doesn't know, or your mind doesn't know, that it's a daydream. It thinks that it's actually living that experience. So daydreaming can become experiential. There's lots of different ways that we can refill. One of the other things that I like to talk with people is, I'm just going to draw a little drawing here so that I can show you what I'm talking about. This is life. So we have the curve of life. And what happens is we get this amnesia line, and it cuts somewhere across the curve of life. And why I call it the amnesia line is because when we go below that line, we forget all of the resources we have. So those resources are the resources that help us refill our tank of energy. We forget what we know to just keep ourselves balanced and in harmony. So what I suggest to people is that they make a list when they're above the line of 10 things that they do that they know they can do that refills their vehicle, refills their vessel. So one of the things that I do is I read trashy novels. I go and I take a photo. I might take 10 photos in the garden. That refills me. I might ring a friend. I might go for a walk along the beach. It's all different for everyone. There's some of what I do. Sometimes I do art. It really takes me into another space and it takes me away from whatever's going on, and that refills me. So it's going to be, as I said, different for everyone. So once you know what it feels like above the line, you know then what it feels like below the line. And you can actually catch yourself in the downward spiral before you go below the line. And one of the quickest ways to go below the line is gossip. So have you ever been with someone who's talking about someone and you get sucked into that vortex, and then you just start to feel worse and worse? And then what happens is you go below your line, you forget all of your resources that keep you protected, keep you from talking negatively, just working with your own energy levels. And then the conversation ends, that person goes away, and you're left sitting in that below the line. And then you think, oh, I don't know what to do now. It's a state of confusion. So it's about learning what triggers your downward spiral and catching it before you go below the line. The more you become self-aware, the lower your amnesia line comes down on that scale. And so some people are way down the bottom here. They barely go below the amnesia line. Some other people, their amnesia line is way at the top here, and they have very little of their life is above the line. So the more you can do for yourself on a day-to-day basis, the more benefit you can be to other people. So that's something that I'm really passionate about, is self-care. It's doing those things. And if in your mind you go, you know what, I'm being really selfish here, really consider doing whatever it is. Because if you can't be operating at your optimum level, how can you be of service to people? How can you help other people operate at their optimum level if all you're doing is depleting your energy reserves? And then ultimately you get sick, and then you're of no benefit to anybody. So
Yeah,
that's.
I love.
Would
I was
you
gonna say,
have found that helpful in your life before you had adrenal fatigue?
yeah, that's what I was about to say. I can really relate to that because I was living, my amnesia level was way up here, and I had no idea of the amount of work that I was doing. I wasn't even aware that I wasn't looking after myself. I've always trained. I've always, you know, done Thai boxing, kickboxing, karate, always trained in the gym. And then suddenly I got to a point where I was working crazy hours. This is when I was starting to build a business, and I stopped nurturing myself, and I stopped doing the Pilates. And for me, I'm a body type, and I need to move my body. That's how I relax. And the adrenal fatigue, obviously I was working so much and I just felt completely depleted because I couldn't move my body anymore, because all of the symptoms come back, you know, all of the cramps in the legs, and I put on a lot of weight, and I wasn't feeling like I wanted to exercise, so it became this vicious cycle for me. And then I got better again and I started moving my body, and you know, it was a process because it wasn't only that. There was a lot of shifting my mindset as well as my eating and everything else. But then I'm so aware now. So at the moment, obviously the new magazine's coming out, and I've got a lot of work on at the moment. And it was only yesterday that I realised, oh, I'm going, you know, my line is creeping up again, and I'm doing crazy hours. And I thought, right, that's it. And so my niece called me and she said, let's go for a walk. And we walked for 8 miles yesterday, and I feel great again today.
Wow.
And I've realised for me to go out and do that, I'm much more productive today than I would have been had I have not gone out and done that. You know, taken the afternoon off and done a really good walk with my niece. And I feel vital again. I feel amazing. And I just think, you know, we sometimes think that we have to sacrifice ourselves so much in order to help others. But when you have that awareness, you realise, and you've had the experience of, once you take that time for yourself and re-energise yourself, you can actually help people more. And I know it's something that we say all the time, but until you've actually experienced that, I don't think you really get it.
No, that's exactly right. And so what you also do is you're starting to tap into what's freely available, like the nature, the energy from nature, the vitality of the fresh air, rather than being stuck inside in stale air. So sometimes that's all you need, is that fresh air with the energy in it, to make that big difference in your body.
Yeah, I mean, yesterday it was a beautiful day in the UK. They said it's a heat wave, but you know, a heat wave is the same as winter in Australia. But it was a beautiful day, and you know, I live by the beach when I'm over in the UK, so we walked by the beach, and then we walked up the cliffs, and we walked all over the hills, and it just the beauty, just being out in nature with the sun. I got the lovely vitamin D. I love the sun on my skin, so vitamin D on my skin, and it's just the best feeling in the world, knowing that, you know, the work's there when I get back to it, but just knowing that I've given myself time to spend with my niece, I'm over here for her wedding. I love her, and you know, I could have said, "Oh, sorry, I'm really busy. I've got the magazine to get out," but actually, you know, the magazine isn't as important as my health or my relationship with my niece, and I think we forget sometimes. You know,
You've actually said a really, really important point there, Sharon, that we need to know what our core values are. And this is something else I like to talk to people about. Know what your core values are. Know what it is that's negotiable, and know what's not negotiable. So what you've just said there is, your relationship with your niece is not negotiable. It's so important to you that you won't negotiate on it. You won't compromise on it. So many people, they don't know what their core values are. They don't know what's non-negotiable and what's negotiable. And so what happens is they negotiate on everything. And then they don't know who they are. They don't know where they begin and somebody else ends. And so they get consumed by those around them, and they just try to people please, and they're being sucked and pulled in all different directions, and then they forget who they are, they forget what to do to look after themselves, and then they get sick.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, values is, we could talk forever about that as well. So if somebody wanted to know what their core values were, I would suggest, sitting there writing a list. Is there a way that you can
look, you can Google. I've actually got it in my book. I've got a list of I think I've got maybe 20 words, but you can Google values and something will come up. And then you look at those values and you pick out the ones that you, and then go through again and pick out the ones that are not negotiable, that you absolutely will not compromise, and then write a list of the ones that are negotiable, that they're nice to have, but they're not going to actually upset the equilibrium of your life if you negotiate on those. And once you know that, the top 3 to 5, see, integrity is one of my top ones. If it's not integral, I will not compromise. So I know if I'm given an opportunity and something doesn't feel right, I just don't go there. I just say, no, this is not right for me. Because if the integrity is not there, I know that down the track, something will go pear-shaped and it will affect my physical and emotional and spiritual and mental well-being. So that's really key for me. So I've got, like, family is really important. I am really important because I suffered from chronic fatigue for 16 years. I know what it's like to not be well, and I won't compromise on my health. And like, I had a lot of work on this week, but I have worked 2.5 weeks out of the last 3 running retreats. I had to take Monday and Tuesday off, and so there were people I knew they wanted to talk to me. I knew it was important, but I was more important. So one of those days I stayed in bed and I read. And I said to my husband, I'm not talking to anyone. So it's about having the guts to say, no, I actually need me. I need my energy for me. I'm not giving it to anyone else. And, until you get that courage to say no, then sickness, fatigue is going to haunt you. And you just need to decide who's more important.
Yeah. And if you do your values and health isn't in that top 3, then you really need to make sure that it is in the top 3, because then you're not going to be healthy.
That's right.
Health is probably my top one. Funnily enough, integrity is one, but fun for me is a very, very big one. So if I do something and I don't find it fun, I'm like, I'm a big ball of energy, and I've got these, I'm a body type, and I'm like Tigger. Yeah. And unless I can be like Tigger most of my life, then I'm not having fun. If I have to sit and do spreadsheets the whole time, and it got to a point where the business actually was taking a lot of my time, and I was troubleshooting all the time, and it was all technical stuff, and that isn't where I'm having fun at all. And I got to a point where I'm like, is this business worth it for me? Because I'm no longer having fun. So I had to turn it around to make it much more fun again. And
exactly.
But coming back to the health, so important that your values, you're in that top 3 with health.
That's right. That's exactly right. And here's how people can decide with what they're doing day to day. Now, I know someone has written a book about this, and I have to confess I don't know his name. I heard about it on an Oprah show, but basically what he did was he said to people, as you go about your day-to-day life for 1 week, all of the tasks that you do in your job, now I say to people, in your life, write down at the front of a little notebook the task and whether it uplifts and inspires you. And at the back of the book, write down the tasks that de-energize and, basically sap your energy. So basically, that transformed the way I thought about strengths and weaknesses. And if you know what your strengths are and you know what your weaknesses are, you actually can outsource the weaknesses and work to your strengths. Now, up until I saw that show, I believed if I was good at something, that was a strength. If I sucked at something, that was a weakness. That is so not true. It is whether that task makes you feel good or whether it makes you feel tired and deflated. So one's a strength, one's a weakness. So I'm really good at doing spreadsheets and accounting. But does it uplift and inspire me? No, it doesn't. It actually brings my energy down. So if the listeners can do that task, match that to their core values, and hopefully health is one of them, they have got a blueprint for living an inspired, healthy, vital life. How do I know? Because that's how I live my life. I've turned my chronic fatigue around. I've turned illness around so that I laugh every day. I say to my husband, aren't we living an amazing life? And it's not because I'm doing that because it's a strategy. It just flows through me how incredibly blessed our life is. It's not an extraordinary life. We live an ordinary life, but in an amazing way. And I follow those exact things. And if people that are listening can do that, I would love to know how that changes their lives.
Wonderful. Well, they can let us know when they're in the membership area.
That would be awesome.
In the Facebook group, I'm hoping to build up those conversations, and we can people and find out how everything that we, all the messages that we give them are affecting them in their life. Because ultimately, when we do that and we share our experiences, that helps other people as well.
Yes.
So I'm looking forward to the day that we've got 1,000 people in there all talking about health and wellness and how what we're doing has helped them. So thank you so much for being a part of that and sharing your knowledge with us. And we will see you again very shortly.
Thank you.
Oh, before we go, Julie, where will people be able to find you?
On julielewin.com, JulieleWin.com. That's my medical intuitive website. Or Arakira, AREEKEERA.com, which is where my book is, and that's my book. And it has 66 techniques in there that they can use to help themselves have their vehicle or their vessel full and live an awesome life.
Cool, thank you, and we'll see you again next time.
Thanks, Sharon.